My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the one holding my family together, the responsible daughter, the one who paid the bills when my parents struggled, the one who took care of everyone else while trying to build a life of my own. I grew up in a small suburban town where reputation meant everything. My parents worked hard, but money was always tight. My father passed away 10 years ago, and since then, my mother has clung to my younger brother Jason like he's the last piece of family she has left. Jason, well, he's different from me in every way. Where I'm cautious and steady, he's reckless and impulsive. Where I save, he spends. Where I put in years of work to build something, he looks for shortcuts. He's always been charming, the kind of person who could talk his way out of almost anything. People fell for his smile, his easy words. But I knew the truth. Jason had a weakness for quick money, and that weakness had nearly destroyed him more than once. Still, Mom never saw it that way. To her, Jason was just misunderstood. She'd cover for him, make excuses for him, and whenever I tried to speak up, she'd scold me for being too hard on him. It didn't matter that I was the one helping her with mortgage payments when Dad died. It didn't matter that I was the one putting money aside for my daughter's college fund. To her, Jason was the baby, and babies could do no wrong. For a long time, I tried to keep the peace. I told myself family was worth the sacrifices. But everything changed the day I logged into my bank account and saw a number that made my stomach drop. Money was missing. Not just a little, a huge amount. And in that moment, I knew something was very, very wrong. Because the truth was, only one person had ever known about that account besides me, Jason. And I had no idea yet, but what I was about to uncover would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. At first, I thought maybe it was some kind of bank error. I mean, things like that happen, right? But the amount missing wasn't small. It was $100,000. That was my daughter Emily's entire college fund. Every bonus I'd saved from work, every sacrifice Mark and I had made, driving the same old car, skipping vacations, saying no to dinners out, it was all in that account. And just like that, it was gone. I called the bank immediately, frantic, my hands shaking as I held the phone. The woman on the other end was calm, too calm for the way my heart was racing. She said the withdrawals had been processed over a few weeks. Not a hack, not a glitch. She told me someone had come in with paperwork, signed under my name. My name. I remember the cold sweat that ran down my back. Who could do something like that? The answer came to me before she even finished talking. Jason. He was the only one who had ever borrowed my documents before. Years ago, he'd begged me to co-sign a car loan for him, swearing he'd make every payment on time. Of course, I ended up paying half of it when he hit a rough patch. I swore I'd never let him use my information again, but clearly, Jason didn't need my permission this time. That night, I drove to Mom's house. Jason was there, lounging on the couch like he didn't have a care in the world. A new watch on his wrist, sneakers that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Jason, I said, my voice sharper than I intended, do you know anything about my bank account? He looked up at me, all wide-eyed innocence. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. Someone took $100,000 from my savings, someone who had access to my documents, and guess what? That narrows it down to one person. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe? But it vanished just as quickly. He leaned back, smirking. Wow, so now I'm a thief. That's what you think of me. Before I could respond, Mom came rushing in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Sarah, stop it. Don't accuse your brother of something so ridiculous. Ridiculous? My voice cracked. Mom, I've worked my whole life for that money. It's gone. All of it. And you really think it's just a coincidence that Jason suddenly has new toys? Jason threw up his hands dramatically. Unbelievable. You've always hated me for not being like you. Just admit it. You're jealous because I live my life without being such a control freak. My jaw tightened so hard it hurt. Jealous? Of him? Of the brother who had nothing but debts and excuses? I wanted to scream, to shake him until the truth spilling out. But instead, I looked at my own mother, standing there with that disappointed look on her face, and I realized something. If Jason had stolen from me, he wasn't going to confess, not with Mom protecting him like a shield. And as I left that night, one thought burned in my mind. If I wanted the truth, I was going to have to dig it out myself. The days after that confrontation were some of the loneliest of my life. I thought maybe Mom would come around. Maybe she'd realize I wasn't making wild accusations. But instead, she doubled down. She called me the very next morning. Her voice was sharp, almost scolding. "Sarah, I don't know what's gotten into you, but you need to apologize to your brother. He's had a rough time, and the last thing he needs is you attacking him." I stared at the phone in disbelief. Apologize? I'm the one with my daughter's future ripped away. "Mom," I said slowly, trying to steady my voice. "Jason stole from me. I'm not imagining it. The bank has paperwork with my forged signature. This isn't just about feelings, it's about facts." But she wouldn't listen. "Sarah, you've always been so uptight about money. Not everyone can be as perfect as you. Jason just needs support, not accusations." Her words stung more than I cared to admit. Perfect? Uptight? Was that how she saw me after everything I'd done for this family? And it wasn't just her. Word spread quickly among our relatives, as it always does. Suddenly, I was the villain in whispered conversations, the sister who made a scene and turned on her own blood. Jason, with his easy smile, played the victim to perfection. He told anyone who'd listen that I was paranoid, bitter, jealous of his success. Meanwhile, every time I drove past his house, I saw something new in his driveway. First, a shiny motorcycle, then a jet ski. My blood boiled, but I kept my mouth shut. I couldn't prove anything yet, not in a way that would stand up in court. Mark, my husband, was the only one who truly believed me. He sat me down one evening at our kitchen table, his hand covering mine. "Sarah, you can't fight this with emotions. Jason's good at twisting stories. If you go at him without proof, you'll lose. You need to protect yourself legally." The thought made me sick. Taking my own brother to court? But as I laid awake that night, staring at the ceiling, I knew Mark was right. Jason had crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. So quietly, without telling Mom or anyone else in the family, I found a lawyer. And together, we hired a private investigator. If Jason thought he could steal from me and get away with it, he was about to find out just how wrong he was. Because I wasn't just his sister anymore. I was his enemy. The private investigator's name was Paul, a quiet, serious man with eyes that missed nothing. He wasn't warm or reassuring, but that's not what I needed. I needed someone who could cut through Jason's lies and uncover the truth. The first week felt endless. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, hoping it was Paul with answers. Meanwhile, Jason strutted around town like he was untouchable. I heard from a cousin that he'd been seen at the casino again, tossing chips around like he owned the place. When Paul finally called, his voice was low and steady. "Sarah, I think you'd better sit down before I tell you this." My stomach dropped. He laid it out plain. Jason was drowning in gambling debts. Tens of thousands of dollars owed to loan sharks, moneylenders, and even some dangerous names I didn't recognize. And he hadn't just been reckless. He'd been desperate. But the worst part? Paul had gotten hold of the bank's internal copies of the withdrawal forms. My signature was there in black ink, except it wasn't mine. Whoever did this was sloppy. The handwriting doesn't match yours exactly, but it's close enough to fool a teller who wasn't paying attention. I sat there, clutching the papers he handed me, my breath shallow. My brother hadn't just stolen from me, he'd pretended to be me. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I thought back to every sacrifice, every late night working overtime, every dollar Mark and I had scraped together for Emily's future. Jason hadn't just taken money, he'd taken years of my life, my peace of mind, my security. And still, part of me wanted to march into Mom's house, slam the papers on the table, and scream, "See? Look what your precious son did." But I didn't. Not yet. Because Paul's voice echoed in my mind. If you confront him too early, he'll cover his tracks. We need to make sure the evidence is airtight. So I waited. I gathered every receipt, every photo, every record Paul could find. Piece by piece, I built my case like armor. Jason thought he had fooled me. He thought Mom's blind loyalty would protect him forever. But I was coming for him. And this time, there would be no escape. I thought I'd already seen the worst of it. The forged signature, the stolen money. It was enough to make me sick every time I thought about it. But Paul wasn't finished. One afternoon, he slid another file across the table toward me. His expression was grim. "Sarah, there's something else you need to know." I opened the folder, and my blood ran cold. It was a loan agreement, a massive one, and right there at the bottom of the page was my name, my signature. Except, once again, it wasn't mine. Jason had listed me as the guarantor for his debts. If he didn't pay them back, they wouldn't be coming after him, they'd be coming after me. I felt my chest tighten as Paul explained the details. If Jason defaults, the lenders can seize your assets, your car, your savings, even your house. I couldn't breathe. My house, the place where I raised Emily, the place I thought was untouchable, was now dangling by a thread because of my brother's lies. That night, the phone started ringing, unknown numbers. At first, I ignored them, but when one voicemail came through, my blood froze. "Tell Jason his time is up. If he doesn't pay, you're the one who's going to regret it." I sat there in the dark, clutching my phone, shaking so hard I could barely hold it. Jason hadn't just stolen from me, he dragged me into his mess with dangerous people. When I confronted him the next day, he didn't even flinch. He stood in the driveway of his flashy house, smirking like I was overreacting. "Relax, Sarah, nobody's coming after you. I've got it under control." "Under control?" I snapped, my voice breaking. "Jason, they called me, loan sharks. They threatened me. Do you have any idea what you've done?" He shrugged, as if it was nothing. "You've got a stable job, a house, a husband who makes good money. You'll be fine. I just needed a little backup, that's all." "A little backup?" My voice shook with fury. "You forged my name. You stole from me. You put my family at risk." For the first time, I saw a crack in his mask. His eyes hardened and his voice dropped. "Don't push me, Sarah. You think you're better than me, but you're not. I've always had everything handed to me, and I've had to scrape by. So yeah, I took what I needed. Deal with it." In that moment, something inside me snapped. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. Mom called a family dinner that weekend. She said it was to bring everyone together, but I knew what it really was. Her attempt to smooth things over, to guilt me into pretending none of this was happening. Mark didn't want me to go. "Sarah, he's going to twist this around again. You're just going to end up hurt." But I went anyway, because I couldn't keep living in silence. When I walked into Mom's dining room, Jason was already there, laughing loudly, holding a glass of wine like he didn't have a care in the world. Amber, his wife, sat beside him, all smug smiles and expensive jewelry. Mom hovered over him, refilling his plate before anyone else's, like he was royalty. I sat down, my hands trembling under the table. For a few minutes, I tried to play along, eating quietly while everyone chatted. But then Jason leaned back in his chair and said, things have really been looking up for me lately. Business is booming. That was it. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Business? I snapped, my voice cutting through the chatter. Is that what you call stealing your own sister's money? Forging her name on loan agreements? The room went dead silent. Forks froze in midair. Jason's smile vanished. "What the hell are you talking about?" he said, his tone dripping with fake outrage. I pulled the papers from my bag and slapped them onto the table. "Don't play dumb with me. These are the documents. Your debts, my forged signature. You dragged me into this mess, Jason, and I'm done covering for you." Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Sarah, enough of this nonsense." "Nonsense?" I turned to her, my eyes burning. "Do you want to know what nonsense looks like? It's when loan sharks start calling my phone, threatening me and my daughter because your precious son can't stop gambling." Jason slammed his fist on the table. "You don't get to air my personal business in front of the whole family." "Personal business?" I shot back. "You made it my business the second you stole from me." For a moment, no one moved. Then Mom's voice broke the silence. "Sarah, how dare you humiliate your brother like this? Family forgives. Family doesn't drag each other through the mud." I stared at her, stunned. Forgive? After everything he'd done? After he put my entire life at risk? Jason leaned back in his chair, smirking again now that he had her on his side. "See? This is what she does. She twists everything to make herself look like the victim." I looked around the table at the faces of people I'd grown up with, people I thought I could trust, and I realized in that moment I was completely alone in this fight. So I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. "You know what? You can all keep protecting him. Pretend he's the golden boy. But I'm done. Jason, you're going to pay for what you've done, one way or another." And without another word, I walked out of that house. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding, but for the first time in weeks, I felt clear. I wasn't just going to confront Jason. I was going to destroy him. But the ledger didn't lie. The withdrawals matched a pattern. The loans linked back to the phone calls in Jason's records. The loan shark's threats were recorded and traced. Piece by piece, the truth stacked up. After the hearing, Jason stormed out. Reporters, yes, reporters, had smelled the drama and hovered like vultures. Amber followed him, clinging, wailing about how the system was brutal. Mom called me, voice small and pleading. "Please, Sarah, don't make him a criminal." I wanted to tell her that her son already was one, that she had a choice between loving a fantasy and loving the truth. But instead, I hung up, closed my eyes, and let the silence hold me. On the drive home, Mark squeezed my hand. "No matter what happens," he said quietly, "we did the right thing. You protected your family the only way you could." But the truth was more complicated. The more documents Karen unearthed, the less like a villain Jason seemed in black and white headlines, and the more like a man trapped in a story none of us had known the first line to. And somewhere beneath the legal papers and the courtroom drama, another truth waited, one that would change everything I thought I knew about my father, about Jason, and about what even revenge could cost. I had not expected the case to open a door to secrets older than any of us. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No ringing phone, no angry texts, no pounding on the door. Just silence. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. I made myself coffee and sat by the window, watching the neighborhood come alive. Kids on bikes, dogs being walked, sprinklers turning lawns emerald green. For the first time, I didn't feel like the world was moving forward without me. I was part of it again. But I knew it wouldn't last. By noon, the storm hit. Jason called. His voice was panicked, a stark contrast to the arrogant, smug tone I had grown used to. "Rachel, I need your help. Please just hear me out." I almost hung up, but curiosity made me stay on the line. "What could you possibly need from me now?" I asked coldly. He hesitated. "They froze my accounts. All of them. I, I can't even pay my rent. And Mom, she's furious. She's saying I ruined her life, that she'll never forgive me." His voice cracked. "Please, you have to talk to her. She listens to you." The irony of it made me laugh bitterly. "She listens to me, Jason? She didn't believe me for months. She chose you over me every single time." I know I don't deserve this, but Rachel, I'm desperate." His desperation was real, but so was my exhaustion. I remembered every sleepless night, every time I doubted myself, every cruel word Mom had thrown at me because of him. "You want me to clean up your mess? Again?" I asked quietly. "No, I just don't know what else to do. Please, you're my sister." That word, sister, hit me differently now. Once it meant loyalty, shared childhood secrets, and a bond no one could break. Now it felt hollow, a word he used like currency when he had nothing else to trade. "Jason," I said finally, "being your sister cost me $100,000. It cost my mother's trust. It almost costs my sanity. I don't owe you anything anymore." There was silence on the line. For a second, I thought he hung up. Then he whispered, "So that's it? You're just going to let me fall?" I closed my eyes. "You pushed me off that cliff months ago. I just learned how to fly on the way down." And I hung up. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel small. I felt strong. But I had no idea that Jason wasn't finished with me yet. Because 2 weeks later, I opened my door and found something waiting on the porch that made my blood run cold. It was early evening when I stepped onto the porch to bring in a package I'd been expecting. Something simple I had ordered online. But instead of the small box, I saw a large battered envelope propped against my door. My name was scrawled across the front in Jason's handwriting. My stomach tightened instantly. I didn't want to touch it. Part of me wanted to kick it off the porch, pretend it didn't exist. But curiosity, it always has a way of winning. I picked it up slowly and went back inside, locking the door behind me. My hands trembled as I slid a finger under the seal and pulled out the contents. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Some were old family pictures, ones I hadn't seen in years. Me, Jason, and Mom at Christmas, at Dad's funeral, at birthdays. But mixed in with them were papers, legal documents, bank statements, property deeds. And then at the bottom, a letter. My breath caught as I read the first line. "Rachel, before you throw this away, I need you to know the truth. Mom knew everything." I froze. My eyes darted across the page, scanning the words. Jason explained in painstaking detail that Mom hadn't just believed him blindly. She was complicit. She knew about the money. She helped him cover his tracks. Some of the bank accounts were in her name. He wrote about conversations they had behind my back, about how she told him, "Rachel doesn't need that money. She'll figure something out. you're my priority." And at the very end of the letter, Jason wrote something that shook me more than anything else. She told me once, "Rachel was always too independent. Let her suffer a little. Maybe then she'll come back to us." I swear, I didn't make that up. That's what she said. I dropped the papers onto the table, my chest heaving. My own mother, not just blinded by favoritism, but actively plotting against me. It was too much, too cruel. I didn't want to believe it, but the documents were right there, signed by her name linked to accounts that held money I once thought was mine. I thought Jason was the villain in my story, but now I realize the betrayal went deeper than I ever imagined. And that revelation was about to change everything. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or throw something across the room. Mom, my own mother, had been protecting Jason, manipulating the finances, and letting me suffer all these years. I felt a storm of emotions: anger, heartbreak, betrayal, but also a strange sense of clarity. I called Mark first. "He's telling the truth," I said, my voice trembling. "Mom, she was involved. She let him steal from me. She planned it." Mark was silent for a moment, then said quietly, "Then it's time to confront her. One last time. You need closure, Sarah." The confrontation wasn't easy. I sat Mom down in the living room, the envelope of evidence spread across the coffee table. For hours, she denied, deflected, and even tried to cry her way out of it. But the documents, the photos, the bank records, they didn't lie. Every excuse she made, every attempt to soften her role fell apart under the weight of proof. "I thought I was protecting Jason," she finally whispered, tears running down her cheeks. "He was my baby. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted him to have a chance." Her words made my stomach turn. "A chance?" I said sharply. "Mom, he put my life at risk, my daughter's future, and you enabled him. How was that a chance?" She couldn't answer, and for the first time, I realized something important. The people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. But that didn't mean I had to let them destroy me. Jason, he lost everything. The court forced him to repay what he could, liquidate assets, and enter a gambling rehab program. Amber left him once the money dried up. He was humiliated, broke, and finally had to face the consequences of his choices. Mom, she retreated into silence. I stopped expecting apologies or understanding. What mattered was that I no longer relied on her judgment or protection. I had built my life on my own, and I wasn't letting anyone take that away again. As for me, I rebuilt, slowly, carefully. I replaced what I could. I saved for Emily's college again, this time more securely. And those scars remain, the kind no money or restitution can erase. I learned something invaluable. Trust, once broken, doesn't have to define you. Revenge doesn't always mean destruction. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your life. And Jason, he learned a hard truth too, that being charming, manipulative, and reckless doesn't protect you from consequences. That family loyalty can't be bought, stolen, or forced. I sometimes wonder, when I think back, if revealing the truth was worth all the pain. But I know this. I may have lost faith in some people, but I never lost faith in myself. Because at the end of it all, I survived. I fought. And I finally realized my life, my peace, and my family's future were mine to protect, no one else's. And even now, when I see Jason or hear Mom's voice in my head, I remember that day I chose myself over blind loyalty. And that choice changed everything.